Call the Canvas meeting to order, and we'll start with roll call.
Reed Campbell.
Here.
Tom Hagelin.
Here.
Sue Kern.
Here.
Ruth Nelson. Here. Bob Nystrom.
Here.
Chris Robinson.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we get started with our regular canvassing here, I'd just like to say that on August 13th, at our August 13th regular school board meeting, the board made the decision to keep this date, November 12th, a meeting as scheduled, and would like to declare this as a non-holiday for the purpose of our school board meeting. And I do want to recognize and thank all of our veterans, both those who have served and have already served, and also to note that each of our schools has done wonderful veterans programs. I was at the high school one on Friday. It was quite impressive, so I'm very proud of our school district for doing that. But thank you, veterans presently serving and have served, and maybe there's even some here and listening that are going to be serving soon. So thank you for your service. And then we'll go right into the resolution canvassing returns of votes of the school district general election. And for that, I'm going to turn that over to Superintendent Larson.
All right, if it's okay, I'm going to take this time to read the resolution for canvassing the return of votes for the school district general election. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 181 as follows. Number 1, it is hereby found, determined, and declared that the general election of the voters of the district held on November 6, 2018 was in all respects duly and legally called and held. Number 2, as specified in the attached abstract and return of votes cast, a total of 20,397 voters of the district voted at said election on the election of 3 school board members for 4-year term vacancies on the board caused by expiration of terms on the first Monday in January, next following the general election as follows. Candidate S received 9,109 votes. Candidate T, 7,367 votes. Candidate U, 6,331 votes. Candidate V, 6,276. Candidate W, 5,219. Candidate X, 4,742. Candidate Y received 3,656 votes, and there were 159 write-ins. Candidate S, Candidate T, and Candidate U, having received the highest number of votes, are elected to 4-year terms beginning the first Monday in January, on January 7th, 2019. These candidates are Tom Hagelin, Ruth Nelson, and Charles Blacklands. The school district clerk is hereby authorized to certify the results of the election to the county auditor of each county in which the school district is located in whole or in part. Congratulations to Tom, to Ruth, and to Charles on being selected to the ISD 181 Board of Education. Let's give them a hand. So we will call for a roll call vote.
I think we need a
Oops, we need a motion. Yep, sorry.
Also move to accept the resolution of the canvassing returns.
Second.
Okay, so we have a second from Director Campbell and a first from Director Campbell and a second from Director Nystrom. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll do the roll call vote.
Tom Hagelin.
Yes.
Sue Kern.
Yes.
Ruth Nelson.
Yes.
Bob Nystrom.
Yes.
Chris Robinson. Reed Campbell.
Yes.
All in favor?
Wonderful.
Unanimous.
So now that we have the canvassing done, and we can adjourn this meeting. So we'll call that meeting adjourned, and we'll move immediately into the regular school board meeting. And we'll begin with the agenda, and there are some amendments. We have 3 recognitions to add under number 8, district recognitions. And under number 10, item number D is deleted. I believe that's everything.
That's it. Yep.
I would so move the approval of the agenda as presented, amended.
Second.
So we have a first from Director Kern, a second from Director Robinson. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. And we'll begin with our district recognitions, and again, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Larson.
All right, thank you. As I just said a little bit ago, congratulations to Tom Hagelin, to Ruth Nelson, and to Charles Blacklance on being selected to the Board of Education. It's going to be a great 4 years, and we look forward to continuing to do great work on behalf of our students, our staff, and our school district. Also, in district recognition, the Warrior Varsity Cheer Team competed for the first time at the UCA 10,000 Lakes Regionals in Minnetonka on Saturday, November 3rd, 2018, and took home second place, and were receiving a bid to the UCA National Competition in Orlando, Florida in February 2019. The National High School Cheerleading Championship, the NHSCC, is the most prestigious cheerleading championship in the country. The NHSCC is nationally televised on ESPN and ESPN2. Teams must attend a varsity spirit camp, compete at a fall competition, and receive a qualifying score to move on to nationals. Congratulations to our varsity cheer team. Congratulations also to Chad Anderson for being selected as the Class AA Assistant Tennis Coach of the Year by the Minnesota Tennis Coaches Association for the second year in a row. This past weekend, we had our section swimming, and we have some great results there as well. Congratulations to Jacqueline Rude, Tegan Rudstrom, Hannah Tachi, and Madeline Gibbons, who are state qualifiers in the 200 free relay. Congratulations also to Jacqueline Rude for qualifying for the state 100 freestyle. And congratulations to Izzy Olson, who qualified for the state in diving. It was a great weekend for the Warriors. And that's all I have.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, we'll move right into the public input. Before, I just want to note that if you're planning to address the board, we welcome your comments. Be reminded that you must comply with Board Policy 206 and follow these rules. We'll enforce a 3-minute limit on each person speaking. During your talk, complaints or allegations against students or employees may not be discussed due to data privacy. So if you have any of those, please submit them in writing to Superintendent Larson. And there will be no verbal interaction or question and answer with the Board of Education or Superintendent of Schools at this time. And also, just to note, for those of you that are students here, at the end of the meeting, we will, you can come up and we can sign your work, and you can ask us any questions you have.
Great.
Okay, so I do have one letter to read, but first, is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward? No one? Okay, last chance. Okay, so I will read this letter that was requested to be read at the public comment period. We are asking, this is from, other side, Milton, he goes by Tony and Marlene Scharf. We are asking that our concerns be read at the Brainerd School District School Board meeting that is scheduled for tonight, November 12th. We will be out of town this evening and will not be able to attend the meeting. We own a commercial building at 1601 Oak Street that has been identified as property that the school district is wanting to acquire. It is our understanding that a year-long moratorium may be proposed regarding property acquisitions. We would like to take this opportunity to express our concerns with this matter. As part of the acquisition process, the school district is already assisting our current renter with relocation assistance services. Our renter has now found another affordable building to rent and has already signed a lease that she may be legally bound to. We are grateful that our renter is being assisted financially by the school district with this move, as we are very concerned about how this acquisition would affect her ability to maintain her business. However, should a year-long moratorium be proposed, it is our opinion that we and our renter both may be left in limbo. As landlords, we are concerned that if our renter does move out of the building and the building is not acquired, we will lose our rental income and will also have to maintain the utilities. Additionally, at this time, no one new will want to rent the building with all the uncertainty concerning the property acquisition. We are asking that you take this into consideration. Others will be affected by the decisions that you make regarding the year-long moratorium. Best regards, Milton and Marlene Scharf.
Thank you.
As there are no other comments, we will move into the next part of our meeting, which is the building project update with Chris Zemer and Justin Mannings.
Kevin Dene.
Oh, yeah, and Kevin.
And Kevin Dene from WSN. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're before you to give you a brief update on a couple items. One being initial review of Nisswa Elementary for design development, which we plan on bringing to the next board meeting for approvals. An update on the CTE workforce tours that we had, follow-up tours that we had on November 6th. And then just a brief summary of where the timelines are at. And some items we just want to bring up as concerns as we look towards the next month and a half of holidays and just how we schedule some things with that. So moving forward with Nisswa. Again, this is the floor plan we're working with. Kevin, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Sure. Can I move that? Sure, thank you. A couple of things that have changed recently since the last time the board saw this. You will see, you can, oriented for the entry there, the new entry that we're creating just to the south of the, can you point with the cursor? Okay. New entry to the south of the library, that's that big block on the bottom of that drawing, so just to the right of that, south, yeah, thank you.
That one right there?
Thank you, yes. So south is to the right. So we see our classroom,
Figured it out.
thanks. This is a left-handed mouse? Right. So we still have our early childhood and kindergarten rooms in this area. We're still showing an expanded lunchroom, cafeteria, K-Club right there. We did create a new exit to the south of the lunchroom. Our administrative area is right here with the secure controlled entry here. And then some special ed spaces here, this location. And then this would be the new classroom addition with the second gym station in this location. So one of the major things we did since schematic design, second floor of this addition came over the top of the existing school. And so that created some budget concerns for us where we really worked with staff to find a way to get the proposed new classrooms within this existing footprint. And it's worked out quite well that we are able to do that. We do have an alternate in the bid documents now that we'll be including to add 2 additional classrooms in this location on first floor. We do not have that on second floor simply because of access to that area would cause us to lose this classroom for a net gain of 1.5 classrooms. Probably not worth that. If the needs change and that happens at some later date, obviously that would have to be revisited. But these classroom wings shape up, maybe if you could go back to first floor. Shape up the way we showed them last time with the restroom areas in this location. As you enter the classroom wing, we have an elevator there and a stairway access. We have a second stairway in this on the east end, so east light would fill this learning commons area. We do have one classroom that does not have exterior windows, a general classroom I'll say, but we're counting on some borrowed light from the light that would come through these classrooms and then obviously from these east end windows. And the existing part of the school stays pretty much as it currently functions. This room is the art and tech room. We do have our special ed rooms gathered along this area. A couple of these rooms also don't have exterior glazing, which is unfortunate, but when we do a project like this, sometimes that happens when we add on in different areas. So I think that is enough, unless there are questions.
Do you want to ask Molly if she has anything that she wants to add?
She needs to come up.
If that's all she's gonna say, then move on.
She can sit down.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. That's weird, okay. Well, the building surpasses any kind of vision that we would have even come up with at the beginning of this process. All of our staff has been heard. I think it represents the learning needs that we have currently, and then even to come. It's versatile so that we can change things as our learning environments change. We're very excited to have common learning spaces between the different sites, and it adds so much. And they have, even within our meetings, things have adjusted, and it's come to this. I feel like this plan has given us everything that we dreamed of, and it encompasses the goals that the board kind of set for our whole district. So we're very excited, very excited.
Molly, how about safety and security? Are you comfortable with that?
I am beyond comfortable with the plan that we have here in every aspect. It allows for us to have safety and security not only within the school day, but after the school day. We're able to lock down different areas because we do have a community library here. And so the community can still come in, use these spaces, yet other spaces are locked down. So as well as with our early childhood, we'll be able to have night classes, yet lock down other spaces. So it's not only secure within the school day, but after, which is comforting to me, to my staff, to our community. And even within the school day, everyone will be able to walk through our office, know where our office is, number one, and not ask when they're, or what door to go in. All the other doors are locked. It's not very welcoming when a person has to walk all the way around the building to try and figure out even where the entrance is. Just having an entrance that says Nisswa Elementary and you know where to go in, that alone is going to change everything. So the safety and security is going to be a game changer.
Okay, and you were the school that was blessed to get the additional money from the
Yes.
grants. Is that
Yes.
part of this plan, or is that totally separate?
It'll be incorporated into the project. We're still waiting on instructions from the state in terms of how that money needs to be spent, how we need to catalog that.
Okay,
We've heard some districts have received instructions. It doesn't seem like it's across the board, so we're trying to figure out what's going on with that. If they're just going per award and sending out this notice that we need a better breakdown of your budget. We don't know. We're looking into that this week, but yes, the improvements will be wrapped into at the same time to take efficiency of the work that we're being
okay,
doing.
wonderful. Wonderful.
Thanks, Molly.
Quickly, the site plan, just one thing to note, the parking improvements that are shown, they were not a part of the original scope, but we are planning to bid those as an alternate, so we have the option to look at doing those as an improvement. On the east side of the building, it would be staff parking spots. And then we were asked to look how we could make the west lot a little more efficient. And I think the biggest solution that we learned there through WSN was getting rid of the diagonal parking and actually turning it to 90 degrees, gets you some more spots. It will sacrifice the basketball court, but in talking to Molly, that doesn't seem to be a concern. We could still post a basket or two in this area for when cars are not there, but it would still function for the school and any after-hours community use that was desired for that. But I believe it does get us a gain. We're still investigating exactly what that gain is, but we would get a slight gain if we were to be able to accept that alternate there. So for minimal paving improvements, which I think is about in this zone right here. So
Did you say that is an add alternate?
it's an add alternate. It wasn't in the original scope when the project was developed, but again, we're carrying it as an add alternate just as an option.
The west or just the east?
Both, actually.
So if it's add alternate, do we still have the improved drop-off, parent pickup drop-off?
And talking to Molly, and Molly can maybe speak to it, she believes her drop-off's actually functioning very well right now. So this would be an enhancement to something that's already working.
So just, I mean, we've had a lot of discussion on that. I want to make sure that we make that improvement
And that's,
some way. Yeah.
that is the reason we investigated the west lot. It's just
Yeah.
that it wasn't originally in the original
Sure.
scope, so.
Yeah, I just want to caution though that we don't look at that as an alternate when we need to make that improvement. I
We
don't.
can investigate that
Yeah,
further then in the
perfect,
budget.
thanks.
Not a problem. Elevations, these are just for reference. These are all the sides of the building. Probably more exciting is what it actually looks like in perspective. If you want to speak to
So,
that, Kevin.
yeah, I can speak a little bit to this, rather self-explanatory, but this is looking northwest at that classroom addition. The area that I talked about, glazing windows that we're counting on bringing light deep into the learning commons is this bank of windows in this area. And so then the rest of the windows then are to the general classrooms that we have planned. They are tall windows to bring light deep into the space. That is intentional on our part. And then if you go to the next one.
Kevin, what's the function of the overhangs?
Window shading device, those are south-facing windows, and there will be times of the day with that tall glazing where that will be beneficial to control that a little bit. Yeah. Good question. All right, and then just to the left, just off of this image, is the community library. So try to imagine that there on the left side into this natural alcove of the building that creates our new entry. Really an enhancement from pre-referendum when we were thinking it on the very northwest. Director Hagelin encouraging us, and others, of course, to study other options. And as we looked at the flow of the building and talked with staff, it really made sense to try to bring administration entry to the central part of the building. So that's what you're seeing there. We did have taller elements earlier in schematic design, but this seems to be a better fit. We're a little bit reduced in height. These are pre-finished metal panels that we're representing here. Low maintenance gets us a nice look that is consistent with the rest of the building. And then beyond, you can see the tall two-story classroom addition.
Any questions about NISWA? Any further questions? Next item, the CTE Workforce Tours. Again, we did some initial tours back in late September of the three facilities listed there, Burnsville, Shakopee, and High School, Hutchinson High School. We did some additional tours based on some word of mouth that staff had heard and some colleagues they had working in other districts that we felt it necessary to go look at based on some things we were looking at with the design. Those being Alexandria High School, St. Michael Albertville High School, and Sauk Rapids Rice High School. Again, with the tours, I think a lot of good data came out of these three sites as well as to what's being done in CTE. We had a download session late this afternoon, and between the six, I think we have a feeling that we've seen a vast approach to how CTE and the workforce is being handled right now. And we've got a good palette to kind of draw upon, along with some of the spaces we're finding out in your existing high school are actually functioning very well. And we may just be recreating the same room, we may be moving it to another side of the building, but that the space is adequate for what it is, so. Again, they were very beneficial. This will probably conclude tours for now, for the foreseeable future, unless we get into some future projects and there's a need to look at some spaces there, so. Any questions with that? And then overall timelines, so this is just our overall schedule. Don't worry, there's bigger ones that'll get into some more detail here, but just to let you know, we are tracking all the projects, basically from Forest View High School, Nisswa Harrison, and the new elementary are basically the ones that are kind of broken down in detail. Lowell Garfield, the South Campus, and the other projects haven't been forgotten, not broken into much detail, but again, just they have placeholders in the timeline here, so. Haven't been forgotten, but they will occur probably, either late springs, to some of the planning efforts, into early fall of next year. Those will likely start for the next round, and then as you can see, there's actually a couple more years of that occurring as well, so. Again, it's a 4-year process, 4+ year process. That we'll get through, and we've taken off a big chunk with the first 5 that we're doing right now, so. Before I get into the specifics of the schedule, I guess the one thing that I just want to bring everyone in the loop on, as we're looking at the holiday schedule, we're seeing a challenge coming in December with just one board meeting. And we're wondering if there's flexibility to maybe add a special board meeting on the 17th. I realize it's only a week behind that. But with the Christmas holiday and then New Year's, it's really gonna stop progress in terms of any approvals we need. We think we can maybe get what we need on that, by that 17th meeting possibly, to keep us moving forward over the holidays and then come back to you that first meeting in January. So I guess not that we necessarily need a decision tonight, we can talk about it at project oversight, obviously. But maybe at the next board meeting, looking to make some kind of decision related to that. But just something we wanted to make you aware of as we look at the schedules in detail, so.
Would there be any advantage to moving that meeting farther into that week,
It's something we could look at.
like the 19th or the 20th?
We could do that as well. Yep, we could definitely take a look at that, and we'll come back to you with what we recommend.
Okay.
So, but
And
appreciate
it
that
could be,
insight.
just as, there's so many activities going on, it could be like a noon meeting instead of an evening meeting too. I know that doesn't work as well for some board members, but.
Should be fine with me.
I'm fine with it.
That might be easier.
With
Okay.
concerts and
Yeah,
games and, yeah.
there's lots of activities at that time.
We appreciate your flexibility.
Okay.
We'll come back with that more, and I'll turn it over to Justin here to talk in more detail.
So what you have here is the Nisswa Elementary schedule, and it's broken out into the pre-construction activities, some construction activities, and I do have the permitting broke out as well. You'll see the design development, the DD presentation is today, the preliminary DD presentation, and we'll be planning on presenting the final DD presentation the next meeting on the 26th. So we're hoping to have approval at that time. And then that'll kick off the construction document process. We'll do the same process with those approvals, construction document preliminary presentation, and the final construction document presentation on March 8th. So we're tracking pretty well, and with those dates, we're anticipating being out for bids in early to mid-March, so. And that correlates well with our construction start date.
So you're projecting it will be open by the September of 2020?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
With flexibility, depending on how construction goes, to maybe open areas early. But obviously, it's very similar to Harrison in the fact that we're doing an addition. So the first summer primarily will be addition. And then as we get that space ready and then move into the remodels so that we have space for kids to go during the school year if we need that.
So the new elementary in Baxter, So this schedule's reflecting only having one board meeting in the month of November or December. Obviously, it would help if we could have that second meeting quite a bit. But what I'm showing here is the preliminary presentation on December 10th. So it'd be great if we could do it the week following, if at all possible. But right here is showing the final presentation of design development, January 4th. No, I can't read that. January 7th. Yeah. Gonna be the same process. For construction documents, April 8th for the preliminary presentation. And the final presentation would be April 22nd. That would, with this, how we're tracking now, we'd be out for bids, mid to late April.
So when would you plan to break ground on that building?
It'd be possibly June or into July. Yeah.
Which a building this size usually takes about a year. So if we can, part of what we have identified really affects Baxter specifically. If we can gain that time, it really almost gains us a month.
Right.
So it'll add a little bit of flex time on the construction schedule essentially.
So here's Harrison, and we're tracking a preliminary design development presentation on the 19th, or the 26th. I'm having trouble seeing that. And then the final presentation will be 2 weeks later. And then construction document preliminary presentation is February 11th. Yep. Well, that'd be the final. Yep. And then February 26th would be the final presentation. So Forest View and the high school, we're tracking schematic design towards the end of this month, early the month following. So we're tracking well. We don't have it detailed on the schedule like we do here, but we're tracking pretty well for schematic design right now.
Any questions?
One thing I think we can talk about tomorrow at Project Oversight is we want to make sure that we have everything set as far as our technology as well in each of these buildings before we ask for final approval. There was, I think we just, our technology director would like to take a little bit closer look, if that works, to make sure that we have everything set for each of the buildings before we get it final approval. So,
Yeah.
yep, it'd be great.
Just one quick comment for the full board. We had discussed in the oversight committee to bring kind of the final plan to the board and then ask for approval 2 weeks later, so we've got a couple weeks in between. So, you know, if there's anything that comes up between now and then versus seeing it one night and then approving that same night, so
Yep.
do that moving forward.
Okay, nicely done. Any other questions or comments? So fun to see the,
It is.
yeah, proceeding along, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Next up, we have our approval of our regular school board meeting minutes on October 29th.
So moved?
Second?
First from Director Hagelin, a second from Director Campbell. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Then we have the revised minutes from public hearing for property acquisitions on September 24th, 2018. And Superintendent Larson, is that just a couple of address changes, correct?
Right, there were a couple of address changes that were miswritten in there. They had been corrected. And so we needed to go back and make sure that they were exactly as we had advertised them in the paper and in our agenda. And so we did that. And so we're just asking for an amendment to those minutes to make sure that that they reflect exactly what happened that evening.
I'll move that we approve the revised minutes from the public hearing for property acquisitions on September 24th.
Thank you, Director Nystrom.
Second.
Thank you, Director Robinson. Any further discussion? Okay, so we have a first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Robinson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The revised minutes are approved. Next up, we have the consent calendar, and if you would like to pull, if you want to pull anything out of that, please, you can state that. And this does, again, include all of the field trips based on our new policy.
I so move approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Thank you, Director Campbell.
Second.
Thank you, Director Kern. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And next, we have a site report from our Brainerd High School Student Council, and that would be Ellie Peabody and Calvin Foss.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, so right now we're currently just planning C-Ball, which is taking place Saturday, December 8th at Craigans again this year.
It's Christmas ball?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we just did We Scare Hunger on.
I thought it was some kind of sporting activity first.
Sorry, slang. Then we did We Scare Hunger for, that was on, what's it called? Halloween. And that went really well. We just like trick-or-treated for non-perishable food items for the food shelf. And then we got a lot of money, I mean, not money, but like non-perishables for that. And actually that went to our Warrior Warehouse at the school for like kids in need. And then we just did cards for veterans, like holiday Christmas cards for veterans. Tonight we did that after school, and that went well. We wrote a lot of them and decorated them and stuff. And then we're also just gonna start decorating the school after Thanksgiving for the holidays. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
It's busy. Before you leave, does anyone have any questions for these two young people? What grades are you in?
Seniors.
Seniors, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for all the work you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. First we have up is the second reading of our new policy 110, service animals. And is.
And Heidi isn't here tonight.
Okay.
Just to update the board, there was some question about the miniature horse in that policy. And we did check into that, and it is part of the law as it states at this point. And so the policy itself reflects what is written in the law. And so at this point, and unless something gets changed at some time, again, we have a couple different surface animals that are in our schools right now, and they're dogs. But we do not have a policy in place. And so this policy has been brought forth, and we think that it's definitely going to meet the needs that we have in our district. So this would be the second reading. We'd have one more reading with the final approval at the last meeting in November.
Move to approve second reading of new policy 110, service animals, including miniature horses.
Thank you, Director.
Second.
Thank you, Director. First from Director Hagelin, a second from Director Nystrom. Any further discussion? Here.
Again, how about transportation of a horse? Would we have to transport it? On the bus? Okay.
They'll bring them.
Never mind.
I have no idea. I suppose
Yeah?
we'd have to figure it out.
Okay. So again, we have a first from Director Hagelin, a second from Director Nystrom. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. And then we have the final reading of 17 updated policies. And have there been any changes or requests for changes on
There
any of
haven't
these?
been any requests for changes at all that have come across my desk. One thing that you had asked me to clarify was policy 206. about why they changed the word citizens to persons in that policy. And according, the law was actually changed to state that for probably a couple of reasons, but one of the reasons is the fact that with open enrollment, sometimes a citizen or somebody that wants to come to a board meeting and present the 3 minutes to the board or to have that conversation with the board, they may not be citizens of the school district and would not therefore qualify. That is one example of persons. The other piece would be that we are public education, and there may be situations where the children are citizens and they come to our school, but the parents still want to have an opportunity to visit with the Board of Education about a certain situation in public. And so this, by changing it to persons, it would allow for people to have that opportunity where they could come and visit with the Board of Education as needed. The one that was primarily talked about was particularly with open enrollment, how they may not be citizens of your community.
Thank you for that clarification. So
You're
we
welcome.
have those 17 policies, and I think we can approve them in one motion. Someone would like to make that motion?
I'll move the approval of the final reading of the 17 MSBA policy updates as listed.
Thank you, Director Robinson.
Second.
Thank you, Director Campbell. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next up, we have approval of the ratification of the paraprofessional contract. And I think Jenny Kessel is going to walk us through that.
All right, so you have in your packet the tentative agreement that was reached with our education assistant bargaining unit. And it should be in your board packet. The contract is a 2-year contract, and I just wanted to highlight the major changes that have occurred in the contract. It includes a 1.75% increase for 2017-18 and another 1.75% increase for 18-19. We added a section for nurses to clarify some of the unique aspects of that group within the bargaining unit. And the education assistants also wanted a name change across the board to paraprofessionals. So if you approve it tonight, we will now refer to education assistants as paraprofessionals. Those are the major changes. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay. Okay,
I would so move to approve the ratification of the paraprofessionals contract for 2017 through 2019.
thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a first from Director Kern, a second from Director Nystrom. Further discussion?
Just a quick comment. I wanted to thank Jenny for a great job in pulling this together, and in particular also with our EAs, or our paraprofessionals. I had the opportunity to sit in on the last 2 discussions, and, this is a group that's on the front lines, and, we know what they endure and the value they bring to the district and to our students and staff. And I know we talked about kind of getting through this contract in hopes so that we could start again after the first of the year. And, with this group to see if we can't enhance this plan because of where we are from a health insurance and compensation piece. But it's, it's a fantastic group, and my sense was they're dedicated to also try to figure out how we could make this a better overall structure. So thanks to all of those that are at the table, from the paraprofessionals and Jenny and Heidi, for pulling this together.
Yeah, we have 250, more than 250 full-time, part-time, and substitute education assistants. And like Tom said, they're on the front line every day, and many of them are in the audience right now. So thank you to them for all that they do every day. We definitely appreciate all they do for us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well said. Would you like to make a motion? Director?
I think we have that in a second.
Oh, we do. Oh, thank you.
I was just interrupting.
Okay, so any other discussion? Okay, then we'll do roll call.
Sue Kern,
Yes.
Ruth Nelson,
Yes.
Bob Nystrom,
Yes.
Chris Robinson,
Yes.
Reed Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Haglund,
Yes.
all in favor.
Thank you. So their contract, ratification of the contract was approved unanimously. Next up, we have some more school bonding information.
That was a nice way of putting it.
From-
So before you is the resolution authorizing the approval of the sale of general obligation school building refunding bonds. You actually approved this on the October 8th meeting. However, visiting with Greg Crow from Ellers, he is slightly concerned with how the market has changed. So on that resolution, item number 3 was actually $200,000 on October 8th, and it is going to $115,000 in this resolution. And it was also, next line was 1%, and it is going to 0.5% with this resolution change. So basically, it's authorizing us to award the sale even if we don't hit that savings of $200,000. We're just lessening that amount so that we can continue with the sale of the bonds. This is a part of our facilities plan, the finance plan. So if, we were to not meet that threshold and not be able to do it, then we wouldn't be able to continue with the plan. The 2018D, which is the sale of the bonds, if the market came in less than what we were hoping, we could always decline and maybe sell it again at a later date. But he did emphasize this is something we need to make our debt long-term. So we're just looking for this resolution so that it kind of closes that gap a little bit, so we don't have to be worried about not being able to accept a bid that day.
So this takes some of our funds that were shortened and lengthens it, right?
Correct.
And so in our plan, even if we were to go to 150.5%, we're still within the budget plan.
Right, he said that, I did ask him that question, and it will affect our plan because, the more savings we can get, the better. But we could look at other sources and try to, either go out for a larger amount, or other funding sources just in general. So, but we do need we need that debt to be expanded out. And the bond sale is next week, November 14th, so, or we would be awarding the bid that day, excuse me.
So the bond sale is on Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
So moved.
I'll move the approval of the resolution authorizing the approval of the sale of general obligation school building refunding bonds, Series 2018C, as presented.
Second?
Thank you, Director Robinson. Thank you, Director Campbell, for the second. Further discussion? Hearing none, again, we need a roll call vote. Janet?
Ruth Nelson,
Yes?
Bob Nystrom,
Yes.
Chris Robinson,
Yes.
Reed Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Haglund,
Yes.
Sue Kern.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director
You're welcome.
Nelson was the second, Director Campbell.
Robinson and
Yes.
Campbell, yes. Okay, thank you. And now we'll move into our informational portion of our meeting. And Superintendent Larson will talk about the Brainerd Public Schools Foundation.
All right, last week there was a Board of Directors meeting for the Brainerd Public School Foundation, and had a lot of discussion about the Dream Big initiative. We also talked about homecoming week events, and one of the things that we spent a great deal of time on had to do with the Hall of Fame. And the Hall of Fame, there's a lot of discussion about what to do with that in the future. It does appear that currently the way we're doing the Hall of Fame, that it's costing the foundation a lot more money than it had anticipated. And this year, they lost significantly more money with that event than they've done in the past. And so we've been kind of brainstorming a little bit about how can we do this differently so that we can break even if we don't make money, just to break even with the Hall of Fame event between the committee that selects the Hall of Fame members, the school district, the Brainerd Dispatch, and the Brainerd Public School Foundation. At that meeting, there was conversation about the possibility of moving it to the school day and having it along with the senior awards recognition in May. And there's a lot of synergy and excitement about moving it into the school day so that for sure our juniors and seniors can see just what contributions these graduates have had to our world after they graduated from Brainerd Public Schools. And so there was just conversation at that time to talk about if we did that, would we want to start in 2019 and do it again in May? I did bring up at that meeting a concern about the fact that we had already lost a little over $2,000 on the Hall of Fame this past fall, that we didn't want to go in the hole anymore during this school year. We needed to figure out a way to retrieve that. And so they were having a meeting today, and Bob, were you at that meeting?
Yes.
And so they had a meeting today to talk about what could that look like, and do you want to share with what happened at that meeting?
Sure. So the committee, we had representatives from the Brainerd Public Schools Foundation there. And it was the consensus of the committee that the committee will do fundraising and continue the event. It will be brought back to the high school. It will be an April or May event, and it will be tied into the senior recognition night. And we think that it can be a success that way. So we're real happy that it can continue.
That's great. Are you thinking in 2019, or will it wait a year?
In 2019, because it's the 20th anniversary
Okay,
of the event.
awesome,
So there'll be one this May?
Yes.
Coming May.
Mhm.
great. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
That was kind of the highlight. That's where we spent the majority of the time last Monday at that meeting, and then talked a little bit about, again, that the big event will be February 2nd, 2019. And again, they're looking for people that will donate to the silent auction, and we're just really excited about having that event once again. If anybody here has an idea for a silent auction item, please talk to myself or Reed or Jenny or anybody, and we look forward to seeing what creative silent auction items we can find for February 2nd. So that's basically it.
Wonderful. Next up, we have a curriculum report with Mr. Murtha, talking about our continuous improvement plan.
Yes, I'm excited to have the opportunity to go with you through all 124 pages of it, line by line. Actually, no, I won't do that to you. What I want to start with is saying that the purpose of these documents is to chart the conversations and document the work that each individual site does in the district throughout the calendar year on fulfilling the goals that they set down in August. We have that big continuous improvement retreat in August over a couple days. They set some goals, the district set some goals. The meat of these plans is in section 5. And this is where the goals become actions. And we examine the actions and what they're doing. So these are living documents. They will change throughout the entire year. The goals won't change, but what they choose to do in fulfillment of those goals are. So what I'd like you to do, if possible, if you'd indulge me for a moment, is just go to Lowell Elementary's plan. I won't take you through every school's plan, but let's just take a look at one plan. And what you see at the very top is there's an outline of a 7-step process that all the sites go through. And it starts with having the right people at the table, section 1. This is where they name their team. I'm sorry.
What page is that particular one on you're talking?
I'm on the
359 on board.
board. I went in through the board book agenda packet, and then I just followed the agenda down and clicked on the link to Lowell.
I don't think he has those.
We don't
He
have,
doesn't have those? I'm sorry. I went through the public access, so.
Somewhere you that.
Can I get to it for you from here?
here, site review. What's it under?
Everyone's still, I'm talking to crickets, so.
Go down.
Yeah. Information.
Page what? 3 what?
And if you click on that arrow right there,
Which one, this one?
Thank you.
yep. Then go down to curriculum report, click on the arrow again. Okay, now you're good. There we go.
Ready.
Okay. All right. I see that you guys can't pull that from there. Okay. All right, well, the public can follow along on. Okay, so what you see is a 7-part structure where the very first step is making sure you have the right players at the table. The principal is supposed to choose those leaders in the building who either through capacity, experience, through countenance, or through the role that they play in the institution are there to help take a look at the data, help formulate the goal, and help be part of the leadership team that implements whatever actions they take. Section 2 are the district goals. So the leadership team from the Department of Teaching and Learning starts this work in about the end of April. And what they do is we start analyzing data as it comes in from over the year. And usually by the middle of July, we have a pretty good sense of the strengths and the weaknesses of what's happened the last year from a district perspective, that large 30,000-foot view. The next thing that we do is we formulate the world's best workforce goals, which act as the starting point for the alignment work by all the sites. So the district sets some points on the horizon that we're supposed to work to, and then the sites pick up the cue from those goals, and they go into section 3 and they do their needs analysis. This is where the individual teams in August examine their own student performance data, climate data, attendance data, parent satisfaction survey data. They look at a wide variety of pieces of information to get a sense of what's the story of their school. And what they're really being asked to do in section 3 is to tell their story through data. It's data with a soul. They then set their own goals. And if you look at section 4 in that Lowell plan, you're going to see that it's lots and lots of goals for them to choose from. They only should choose 1 or 2 to be the primary focus of what they do. They'll talk about most of those, but you'll see them put an X or a check in the box of the ones that it's going to be their priority work. They choose those. We give them lots of options. We also give them the ability to create their own. Sometimes the site does, sometimes they don't. We help them with the calculations to make sure that they can set reasonable and attainable goals and that we're trying to deal with whole children and not parts of children, statistically. So that's the goal-setting portion. But like I said, the meat of the plan is down in section 5. And section 5 are the action plans that each site takes to meet the goals. Goals without plans are wishes or hopes. And what we want to make sure is that there's high structure, that there's targeted work with identified resources and identified persons involved in order to move forward to fulfill those goals. So you see in Lowell's plan, they have dual goals, both math and literacy, that are the primary work, and that they've done a very good job in section 5.1 identifying what they believe about student learning and what questions they need to talk about when they're doing their continuous improvement work. From there, in section 5.2, you'll see what the actual action plans are, who's responsible, what are the timetables for this. This leads us to the last 2 sections. Section 6. Section 6 is really a compliance section for the Minnesota Department of Education around QComp or AComp. What we do is we have them just chart some data there that we have to submit as compliance work for maintaining our AComp grant. But at the same time, they're supposed to be setting a specific AComp growth goal for their building. We encourage them to use one of the goals that they've already identified in section 4. By doing so, we keep a certain amount of alignment to the work. If you're trying to do everything, you're probably not going to do anything well. So there's a less is more element to this. In section 5, we don't want them to have 6, 7, 8, 9 different improvement actions that they're trying to take. We want them to focus on 1, 2, 3, preferably 2 to 3, that are doable, high impact, and targeted to specific points in their data so that we can monitor it and it has a reasonable chance of being implemented with fidelity and a chance of success. Section 7, you will notice, is blank. And the reason is, that's the evaluation of the plan that occurs at the end of the year. That evaluation for the sites will start in May. I will bring them back in. We'll start doing work going through Section 5 saying, did you actually do it? How well did it work? Would you do it again? Would you do it again the same, or would you do it again different? All the different permeations of reflecting on whether or not what you tried to do was A, a good idea, and B, an effective idea. That creates the calendar of the year from really starting in July when Sue and I and our team set district goals. People build off of that throughout the fall. I'll be back again to you next month in December to bring forward the annual World's Best Workforce Plan. For those of you who've been on the board for a while, you remember the old October 15th deadline for the site staff development reports. That's the new incarnation of it. It's now in December. It's a little bit more robust than the old goals that we used to have to do. So what I've been presenting to you all fall through this process is building to that point of here's what the plan is that we submit to the state of Minnesota. That's the Reader's Digest version of 188 pages worth of documentation. If you would like me to discuss it in more detail, I would be happy to oblige.
Can you maybe just, since you picked Lowell, just give an example of what they're going to do specifically? Like, it looks like it's social emotional learning.
Let's take a look at section 5.2.2, just because I have that one right up and it's large enough that I can actually read it. Okay? The reform there is focus on literacy reforms, in fact, SPED and FRP students. They've identified in section 3 that they have achievement gaps like much of the district has in special ed and students in poverty when it relates to literacy. So that's the topic that they're working on. Their specific actions are, it looks like they're doing some book study and they're doing some professional learning around high-interest books choices for students. So this would be what books are the students interested in reading for that independent reading component. Their title teachers are scheduled for push-in services in special classrooms to provide services. So they're changing a delivery of service model relative to the Title I interventionists. Instead of the pull-out model where the kid goes down the hallway and meets with the teacher, that teacher is pushing into the classroom during the literacy block and helping work with those students while they're still experiencing core instruction.
And that's a best practice.
That is a best practice, okay, when done correctly with fidelity.
Okay.
You also see them in, under that same blanket is they're targeting their use of their funds from the PTA on just right titles for grades K and 2. So they're looking to make sure they're supplementing the book list both in the media center and the classroom with appropriate text for kids based on the text leveling work that we do as part of core curriculum. Those would be 3 examples. I can continue to go down the list. But what you see again is very targeted actions in response to what they've identified in their data is what they need to do.
Thank you. That was good to have an example.
Okay.
I had a question.
Sure.
Do they do the same format with the AGAT program as they do with the regular education then?
We treat the school as one site. It's one site. So if they're doing, and they have in years past, done some targeted work in the AGAT program based on data that they saw, they will include that in section 5.2. They wouldn't create a separate plan for that. They would consider that part of the program as the school. At the high school, you would see that any AP or CTE or any highly specialized programming would all be rolled into one site's plan, but it may have a particular section to it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, how do you know that we're on track throughout the calendar year with our continuous improvement? How do we know that we're not, at the end of the year, we report in and find out we took a left and we should have gone right?
It depends on what the part of the plan is. We create we create a few. I wish we had more opportunities to check in. For example, tomorrow is a district staff development council meeting. This is an opportunity for the site leaders to come back for an hour and a half with me tomorrow evening. And we will talk about how's going the implementation. Are you doing the things that you're saying to do? So we have check-in points along the year. The principals and the site teams monitor through either staff development meetings or site leadership team meetings how they're doing. Many of the sites use portions of PLC time, professional learning community time, for the purpose of doing the work of some of the parts of the plan. So that's also documented then in the ACOMP work that we do. At the end of the year, you do have to do that evaluation. And sometimes you discover that despite the best of intentions and heavy lifting, it did not work, or that you just never got to it. It sounded like a great idea in August, but turned out to be unimplementable. That's why I say these are living documents. What I ask that staff do is continue to update them to show that they haven't abandoned them. And so we do check in on them, we do progress monitor in that sense, depending on how they're using data, whether it's text leveling data in elementary, which is very high structure, and there are 3 times a year where they have very specific data meetings in their sites, and they formulate specific instructional responses based on that, or some looser structures at the high school. They're continuing to do it all year long, either in PLCs, staff meetings, and we try to give them a little time on some in-service days.
So maybe just if I could, a follow-up question. Do you think there might be a possibility that in the future we could maybe look at like a one-page document, and maybe it's picking 2 or 3 of high-level continuous improvements of each building, where it could just be kind of a dashboard for the board to see how we are performing, color code it, and I'm just thinking of what gets measured gets done, and I hate to wait until the end of the calendar year and find out that we've gotten off track. And I'm just wondering if maybe there's an opportunity to do that in the future.
There is, but again, it's going to be dependent on what kind of data they're collecting. If they're relying heavily on comprehensive assessment data, MSCA data, only get that once a year. In the overarching goals, several of them for World's Best Workforce must be written that way. Some of the smaller goals or sub-goals can use STAR data for progress monitoring, where we would be able to collect data multiple times in the year. Some could use text leveling data. When you get up in the middle school and the high school, that will get a little bit more difficult. They don't have as many standardized data points to work with as elementary does.
Maybe something to think about.
Duly noted.
Thanks.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Thank you.
Now we have the business services report from Marcy Lord.
Be short tonight. I did do an enrollment update, so as of November 1st, total was 6,881, which was down about 8 from the October 15th count. The only other thing that I was going to mention was we did have a Standard & Poor's conference call on November 5th for the rating of the 2018B through 2018 DC. Ugh, man, I'm struggling tonight, I apologize. 2018 B, C, and D. And they did give us a report, and there was no change in our rating, so it is still an A, which is good. And then, of course, backed by the state is a AAA. So that's all I have.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Any questions before? Okay, thank you. And then we have the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. Again, I'd like to begin tonight, first of all, by recognizing our many veterans who have served our country or are presently serving. And tonight is just really a special night to, as we've been celebrating kind of ever since Friday, recognizing the commitment and the dedication these many people have given for our freedoms. And so a very special night, and to recognize all of these people. It's also really an honor for me tonight to congratulate Tom and Ruth to their reelection to the Board of Education and Charles to recognize you. And for those who don't know Charles, he's sitting in our audience again tonight, and we just really are welcoming of you and happy to have you on our board. And you just really did a lot of very nice things during the election and talked about your commitment and your passion for education. And so we look forward to meeting with you and to having some trainings and having you sit on the board. So congratulations to you as well. So, yep, thank you and congratulations. Other than that, most of the items that I've talked about, we've talked about, but there's a lot of meetings and things that I'd like just to update people about. Today, I was really fortunate. I was able to speak along with Dave Bergeron to talk about our building project at the MREA conference that's being held for 3 days at Craigan's. And I was telling some of the board members as we prepared tonight that it was really fun to see that the room was filled, just with people that were really intrigued by the process that's happened. Many people that took us aside and said, you know, we really like this plan, how you did it. And so it's really fun to see that the interest that it is gathering, and that we were asked to talk at MSBA in January, both on our financing strategy with Ellers and on the process that we use for our referendum. And so we're looking forward to being able to share this with more people throughout the state in hopes that other school districts will be able to follow along and have these successes. Also, tomorrow is a big day for the district. We have project oversight at 10:45. And then at 2:30, in this room, we're going to hold a special meeting, a joint meeting with the city of Brainerd to talk about the property acquisition. And it is going to be just 2 board members from each, where we have an opportunity to talk about the needs that the district has, how we got to the numbers that we have, and some of the concerns that the city has, and how we can work together to partner and move forward in this process in the future. At 3:30, between 3:30 and 5:30, I'd like to take this time to welcome everyone in the district, school board and everyone involved, to the American Legion as they are hosting the Education Appreciation Tea. And they would like everyone from the district to please come to the Legion between 3:30 and 5:30 tomorrow to be recognized and thanked for the work that's done on behalf of our children. So for anyone here, if you're free tomorrow between 3:30 and 5:30, please stop by the American Legion. I know they would appreciate having people do that. Also, this Thursday at 9 o'clock, we're going to have a conversation with the city of Brainerd and Baxter to talk about the K-9 trainings that take place through the law enforcement agencies, and just to learn more about it from the school district perspective and to have a conversation about that. We have lunch with Lane at Forest View Middle School, and from 1 to 3 o'clock, we have standardization meetings. So we have lots of meetings on Thursday as well. Friday is the Crow Wing County Family Services Council and the governance meeting, and I know Ruth serves on that committee. And so we will be together Friday for that. And then I just want to remind everyone that we have Thanksgiving coming up. And so on the 22nd and 23rd of November, the district offices will be closed. Actually, hopefully, most everyone will be gone during that period of time, and we will wish everyone a really wonderful time with their family and friends. So that's my report for this evening.
Okay, wonderful. So I think Superintendent Larson mentioned most of the meetings coming up, but just a couple of other reminders. We have the November 26th regular board meeting at 6 p.m. and possibly another board meeting in December.
Yeah.
And then also, we should probably note, I don't think we noted this, did we?
Yeah, I think we should, if you will.
I'll just read this. Nisswa, Harrison, the new elementary, and the Brainerd High School building plans are at different phases in their design work. So all the designs will be posted on blueprint181.org as they become available, and the district will alert the community when they are posted for their review and feedback. We encourage public feedback throughout this process. And I know I put my name through work in there so I could make sure when they came out, that they were coming out regularly, and I just got one recently. So just, if you want to be on that list of updates, go to Blueprint 181, and you can add your email address, and you'll get information about when there are things to look at new on Blueprint 181.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up as well. I know Corey was working really hard to put together another public meeting where we could look at all of the designs again. And like she was sharing with me this weekend, everything is at such different places right now. And so she and her team have really done a phenomenal job of getting the word out, asking people to go to Blueprint 181 and giving the input online. And we're going to try that this time just because Nisswa is kind of ready, but the other ones aren't at that phase yet. And so we're going to try that and see if that works. As of today, I think we had 10 people that had provided input just today. And so we're thinking that we might even get more public feedback this way. And so we're just going to give it a try and see if this works as effectively as we're hoping it will. So thank you for bringing that up.
And then finally, students, right after this meeting, you can come up and we can sign your papers. And is there any other business to come before the board?
There's a document of the casting of votes that everybody needs to sign. I think
Okay.
Lisa needs to notarize, so
Okay,
after the meeting.
so we should all stay for a minute. Okay, perfect. Anything else? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.